I put that in quotes because it was not actually a night at all, but a 10-minute physical encounter in the back room of her store. She just came out and told me because she felt guilty about it and felt she could not continue in our relationship until it was off her conscience. We have talked and talked about what caused her to do that, and I have been praised by our friends and family for being a real man and not walking out on her and our daughter and trying to work it out. I do believe she is sorry for what she did, and I also believe that she truly loves me and would never want anyone else. Unless, and that's the kicker, over the past month and a half, I have read so much material about infidelity and how harmful it can be for the victim to blame himself and not the cheating spouse. My wife has told me numerous times that her affair was not my fault, but I think she's just trying to make this as easy for me as possible. In reality, though, the easiest way to deal with it is to look at it as my fault. Thinking it was my fault gives me a sense that I can control it from ever happening again. You see, love for me has never been kind. I had always been too romantic, too clingy, too needy with women to the point that they became turned off. When I met my wife, I told myself that I was not going to become so emotionally attached, and if I did, I surely wasn't going to show it. We went for 13 years with her initiating almost every intimate moment between us. She complained to me often that she felt like our marriage was more like a friends with benefits situation than an actual marriage. I told her that I liked it that way, that a married couple should be friends first and foremost. She still complained that I did not make her feel wanted or desired, that I made no effort to initiate bonding, and that she felt as if she walked out on me that I wouldn't even care. I was so assured that she couldn't live without me that I didn't bother to meet her needs. And so, the affair. So, you can see how I feel it is my fault. I am devastated that it happened, and I feel like such a heel for being so neglectful to her all these years that she was driven into this situation by the first guy to come along and make her feel desirable. Ever since I found out, I have completely opened up to her. I initiate intimacy with her almost daily. I write her poems and small notes to put into her purse before she leaves for work. Only, now I feel as if I am working so hard to woo her again, and I am wondering if I am actually being a dupe. Somehow, I feel that she should be the one working to regain my love, not the other way around. Only, I am just reassuring her that I have always loved her. And it seems as if she is just getting her cake and eating it too. She got to have this fling with a guy she found attractive and who made her feel attractive. And now she has this husband who is acting like she has always wanted him to act, and everything is perfect for her, albeit she still feels really guilty and horrible. She described herself as a monster a few days ago. While I am the one who is devastated, am I justified in these feelings? Or should I just continue with what I have been doing? Husband does not give the wife what she needs, so she goes elsewhere. The good thing is that I can fix that. It was something wrong with what I was doing, not something that was really out of my control. I wouldn't describe having an affair as an old habit of hers. It was a one-time mistake she made after being faithful for 13 years. And it tore her apart emotionally. I believe she wouldn't do it again, as long as I continue to be emotionally open and available to her. I did get the backstory on this whole situation. Here it is. My wife started talking about a guy that comes into her store every morning. He's a beer vendor. Ugh. And she described him as cute as a button. I immediately reacted at that, having never heard her talk about another guy like that before. She consoled me by telling me he was cute. Cute, whatever. I have not seen this guy. Anyway, she was telling me about this because she wanted to tell me about how her coworker went up to the beer vendor and told him he could hook him up with my wife if other man wanted to. Howdy said that he believed my wife to be married. Coworker said to Howdy, "Yes, but so you are so." Howdy replied with, "No, she's happily married." I got pissed at the coworker for doing this, and my wife couldn't understand why. Inside, I suspected that she liked this beer guy, and I know from personal experience that crushes can be difficult to handle, especially if both parties have a crush and are both aware of its existence. Wife told me not to worry about it if I trusted her, so I did. In the week or so that followed, my wife had become unusually active. She initiated intimacy with me on a near daily basis, practically raping me in my chair one evening while our daughter was roller skating. Then, all of that stopped, and she became very depressed and withdrawn. This lasted for several days. Anyway, she didn't come out and tell me the whole truth at once. The night before D-Day she asked me if I had ever been physically attracted to another woman since our marriage. I told her that I find other women attractive all the time. She said she didn't mean it that way. She meant have I ever been turned on by another woman. Now, I know how my wife is about jealousy issues. I know from past experience with her that admitting to desiring other women could lead to nothing but long arguments. So, I lied and told her no. She said she didn't believe me. Then, it dawned on me why she was asking, and I asked her who the man was she was attracted to. She said it was Howdy. That led into a long discussion which resulted in her telling me that after her coworker offered to hook the two of them up, Howdy came up to her and asked her if she would like to get with him. She admitted then that she told him, I would like to talk about it first, but yes. And she said she called him that evening and told him that she really loved me and couldn't go through it. I was emotionally wrecked at the thought that she could even say yes to a proposition. It didn't really matter that she backed out, as she claimed. The next day, I thought long and hard about what would have caused her to say yes to this guy. I knew she had been trying to tell me what she needed from me physically, to feel wanted and desired. And that's when I realized I had to start changing. I came home from work and told her everything I had thought about, and even broke down crying. That's when she said, "I love you. Please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. I haven't been completely honest with you. I slept with him." My first impulse was to pack up and leave, and that's what I did. Just threw crap in a suitcase while she's following me around shaking and terrified and asking if we couldn't talk about it. But I just didn't want to be there. I came back that night, however. I couldn't stay away without knowing anything. I thought I could just end it and walk away and let her deal with all the pain, but I was surprised at how much I wanted to know what happened. She told me the real truth that night. Basically, it was the same story except that she never called him to back out. He made his move on a Friday. On the following Monday, he came into her store, into her office, and began kissing her. She told him she had to count the money for the store and had a meeting to go to later. He asked if he could come back when her coworker arrived, and she said yes. He came back, they went into the back room, where they kissed. At some point she sucked him off, then, with only their pants down, he had her on the floor. She said she enjoyed the kissing and enjoyed the things he was saying while she was blowing him. But shortly before he entered her it all got too real. She said she emotionally checked out at that point. She said she just stared at the wall while he did his thing. She didn't even come close to orgasm. When he was done, he asked her a couple of times if she was okay, noticing that she was not at all into it, and she said she was. She told him he had lipstick on his shirt, and he washed it off at the sink. Then, he said he had some deliveries to make and left. She came back out on the floor and told her coworker that she thinks she made a big mistake. Understatement. When he came in the next day to make his deliveries, she noticed he was acting strange, not looking at her and rushing through his job. She didn't see him again until that Friday when he came in and told her that he couldn't do anything with her again. I guess out of feeling guilty with what he did to his own wife. My wife was relieved at that and told him that she was about to tell him the same thing. After she told me, she also told other man that she had told me that what he had for her and her for him was a simple crush that went way too far, and that she loved me and would never want to hurt me again. He asked her if that meant she would not take him back, and she said that that is exactly what she meant. Since then, I have monitored her cell phone usage by checking Bill online for deleted messages or phone calls. And there has been no contact with this guy whatsoever, apart from regular workday interactions. Can I be 100% sure that she is not doing him anymore? I think I can. After all of the tears and discussion and questions and answers, she seems a lot happier than she ever was. I know her, or think I do, and I know that she could not maintain an affair without it eating her up inside. I wish it were so simple to tell her to quit her job. Doing so would put us out of a house, we would possibly lose our cars, which would lead to my losing my job as well. She is doing very well at her job and is up for a district manager promotion, which would get her out of that store. I would hate for her to throw that away. To be fair, there was a managerial opening at another store that she offered to take if it would make me feel better. I knew, however, that that store was a mess, would be an extra half-hour drive, which would kill us in gas money, and would make her miserable. She practically insisted on taking it to show me that she felt nothing for this guy. But I told her not to. I did not want her to go to a job that would make her absolutely miserable. I may be rug sweeping, but I do trust that there is nothing going on between the two of them. She contacted this guy after she told me. She told me that she felt like she had to tell him that she told me. She said that there was awkwardness between them that wasn't going away, and she felt she could not maintain a business relationship with him if she thought he was thinking there was still a chance for more with her. I told her not to talk to him, that I couldn't see how that would lead to anything good, but I realized she needed to close the book on this guy for good. So I allowed to her to tell him that she told me and that any thoughts he might have about it continuing are over. That was over a month ago. There has been no contact with him since, other than business. I have wondered if her story is all true. I am pretty sure there are lies there that have yet to be uncovered. Unfortunately, her story is the only one I have to go on. That coworker prick of hers sent me a message on FB asking me to forgive him and that he felt horrible about suggesting hooking up my wife with this beer guy. I chewed him out and shut him down. The job isn't more important than the marriage. I don't know, maybe there's some weird part of me that wants to deal with as little disaster as possible. Putting ourselves in a major financial bind over this is not something I find attractive, nor do I believe it to be necessary. Who knows, I am probably in denial about all sorts of crap. We'll have to call in the Spanish Inquisition again when she gets home this evening. Her coworker is a guy, and he's gay. Maybe he, too, had a crush on a beer guy and thought it would be fun to try to live out some inner fantasy with this guy through my wife. Who the hell knows? She doesn't a reputation for doing these kinds of things. She employed as the manager there after the other company she worked for went out of business. She had only been working there a few months and built up a friendship with this coworker of hers. I know this guy's gay. By the way, the other man isn't gay. The coworker who approached the other man and suggested hooking him up with my wife is gay. I know because I have seen comments he has made about pics of some of my male friends. Anyway, she built up a friendship with this gay coworker of hers who, apparently, is a real horn dog and has no problem talking openly with her about all of the guys who come into the store that he thinks are hot. When my wife mentioned that she thought the beer guy was hot, coworker decided to stoke the fire. It was, apparently, only meant as a joke, kind of picking at my wife for thinking things about the beer man. Neither one of them actually expected beer dude to act on it. Well, there are other reasons for my believing the affair was a one-time thing that is over. She contacted a couple of our close friends and told them about it because she was completely destroyed for having done what she did and needed their advice. She even contacted her sister and told her, and her sister is the type of person whom my wife would never want to disappoint. I don't see her contacting her sister and telling her if she did not truly feel horrible. She did all of this before she told me because she wanted to tell me and was hoping one of those people would tell her that telling me was the right thing to do. They all told her not to tell me, which really sucks, because these are my friends, too. But she told me anyway because she couldn't live with it. Whether or not everything she said was true will probably never be determined. But I do believe that she feels true remorse and could not bring herself into getting into that kind of situation again after feeling and seeing all the hurt it has caused. I am very confident it only happened the one time, made her feel terrible, and it never happened again. I don't see how that is not a possible or even plausible scenario. It was like this: wife gets a job managing this store. Her assistant manager is a gay guy who threatened to quit the day she came to work because he was worried about his own job security after seeing the previous manager get fired. Wife convinced this coworker of hers that if he stuck around and got to know her, he might actually enjoy working for her. As the next few days pass, wife tried to encourage her assistant to stay by being cool with him. This encourages her assistant manager to talk openly to her about his gay side and how attractive he finds a lot of the guys that come into the store. He has worked there for years and knows the beer guy fairly well. Beer guy, who usually only came in once a week to do the orders, starts coming in every morning to buy a Red Bull and something for breakfast. Wife does not realize he is doing so because he is attracted to my wife. She also finds him attractive, but neither one of them talk about it to each other. One day, my wife tells her assistant manager, during one of their look at that cute guy sessions, that she thinks the beer guy is cute. This is the only guy she has said is cute to her assistant manager. To rib her a bit and make her feel uncomfortable, for fun, assistant manager goes up to beer guy and says he can hook beer guy up with my wife. This is when assistant manager finds out that beer guy also thinks my wife is attractive. He tells assistant manager that he likes my wife, but he thinks she is happily married. Assistant manager goes back to my wife and tells her that the beer guy also likes her. This gets my wife excited, and she starts thinking about it. She begins to come home and initiate with me on a daily basis. Finally, beer guy, deciding to give it a shot, approaches my wife and asks her if she would like to hook up. She says, "I'd like to talk about it first, but yes." He says great, gives her his number, and leaves. She calls him later to talk about it, tells him that she loves her husband and doesn't want anything to develop between her and beer guy other than just bonding. Beer guy tells her he understands. He's been married for 10 years and has never done anything like this himself, but has been attracted to wife since the first day she started working there. They don't make any definite plans to hook up, only they talk about how people know his van and would know if it was where it wasn't supposed to be. That was on a Friday. On Monday, beer guy comes into the store and, you know the story. After Monday, my wife gets really depressed, then tells me what happened a few weeks later. It seems possible and plausible that this is how it went down. I don't understand why practically everyone here is thinking she must have been boning her assistant manager, too, and that she must have done beer guy more than once. According to wife, beer guy also felt bad about it and called off any more encounters with her before my wife had a chance to, which she was going to do when she approached him the Friday after the event. Is it not possible? Has it not ever happened that two married people learn of their mutual crushes on each other and get caught up in some fantasy that turned out not to be what they fantasized about, and they feel horrible afterwards? I think it happens quite a bit. My wife was equally surprised by her physical reaction to this beer guy. The whole situation she got caught up in, coupled with my aloof demeanor and unwillingness to be emotionally open to her, it almost seems like she had to do what she did. And, in all honesty, I believe that her having this affair has really opened my eyes to the way I treated her and is forcing me to get back in touch with my feelings towards her and to express them to her regularly. Of course, it does bother me that, even though I, too, have been propositioned by other women at times, I never acted on them. I could not ruin my marriage like that. and it hurts to know that my wife did not give me the same consideration before she went through with it herself. As for the other man's wife, that is a really touchy situation. I agree that she needs to know what he did, but at this stage in the game, I am more concerned with repairing my own relationship rather than having to get involved in somebody else's. If he chooses to tell his wife, great. If not, great. I really don't care either way. I want nothing to do with him or his family. Besides, I don't want to do anything that could get my wife fired for what she did. I don't know his last name. Don't know if my wife knows his last name. I don't know how his wife would react. I don't want his wife storming into my wife's job and causing all sorts of havoc with her, which might ultimately get her fired if and when her company finds out what she did while on the clock. Trust me, I want him to hurt as badly as I am hurting. I am just unsure exactly how wise my getting his wife involved would be. Some people are saying I am rewarding her for her behavior by being more loving and caring towards her, are confirming my fears, but perhaps the thing that drove her to the affair was actually my fault, and that I really needed to work at being more loving towards her. I have been afraid that she had her affair because the other man had something going for him that I did not. That he looked a certain way, exuded a certain manliness, was more virile. I don't know. Well, I have more information about that, which I will reveal momentarily. But, to me, it stood to reason that if I was not making her happy, what good would it be to make her feel even more miserable with me by cursing her out every day, shutting myself away from her even more, physically and emotionally, and forcing her to find a new job when she is so close to really succeeding at this one, maybe causing some resentment towards me later on. I know this all sounds like a bunch of ass paste spilling from the mouth of a newbie who has no idea what he's doing and is naively trying to make the best of a bad situation. Anyway, she came home from work yesterday and found me lying in bed, depressed. She crawled into the bed beside me, and we had a long talk. Essentially, I told her that I cannot do this on my own. I thought I could, but knowing she gave herself to someone else made me feel so ugly and unloved, and that I have been filled with nothing but constant doubt. Then, I made some demands. I told her that she had to 1. Get an STD test. I told her that I would have gone myself, but I don't think I should have to endure something like that. She needed to make the appointment, get the test done, and show me the results. She agreed. 2. Get IC. I explained to her that there was something wrong with her for being able to so easily give up the goods to the first guy who comes along and gives her some attention. She argued with me a bit about this one. She suggested that we go to MC instead, because she thought we needed to work on the marriage. I pointed out to her that she has told me that her actions had nothing to do with me. So why did I need to go to counseling with her? And I reiterated the point that she so quickly and easily gave it up to this guy without even trying to talk to me about it first. She said, it was easy right up to the point where it actually happened. Then I felt horrible. I said, see, that's messed up. There's something wrong with you, and you need to go to IC. I will go to IC myself, because I need help in getting past this. Once we have worked out our individual issues, then we can try MC. She agreed. 3. She had to find a new job. She had to really start looking for something new here in town. Her current job is an hour's drive away already. Not just check job postings for 5 minutes once every 3 weeks. Once she finds something that won't sink us financially, she could put in her 2 weeks' notice. I know this one was hard for her for the reasons I have already listed. Enjoys and is good at the job. Will probably be promoted within the year. And she became a bit frustrated at that because she said she knows that there are no feelings for the other man there at all, and she wishes I could know that, but she understood that I have no way of trusting what she said when it came to that. I told her that if she wanted to keep this job and climb the corporate ladder, she should have thought of all that before she did what she did. I asked her to consider how it makes me feel knowing that she is returning to that place, day after day, as if nothing had happened there, knowing that she has business dealings with this guy regularly and I have no way of running up there to check on her. She said she understood how I felt, and she agreed. I know you guys are probably going to tell me that I should have had her quit immediately. I'll just have to bite that one. Her quitting without having something else lined up, and not being able to draw unemployment, would add way too much extra stress to an already extremely stressful situation. I couldn't have handled that any other way. Those were my demands. There was a lot of, if you can't meet them, then you can pack your crap right now and move in with your sister from me, and some you're scaring me right now from her. But she agreed to all of it and began looking for a new job. Later on, last night, we talked some more about what she did. We got on the subject of IC, because she had said during dinner that she would like to go to IC if only to learn how to be a better mother. That bothered me. Sure, I want her to develop a better relationship with our daughter, but I did not want that to be the focus of her counseling sessions. I told her that I wanted her to figure out what it was with her that made her give in to the other man so easily. The way she had described him before did not make him sound very attractive at all. I told her that I could not understand what she saw in him. She told me that he was definitely not her type. She said he is kind of a hick, and gets a confused look on his face when she uses a big word in dealing with him. and that I was a much better looking guy. So, what was it about him? She said she didn't know. She knew that she was not attracted to him at all when she first started working there in September. She began to think about exactly when she began to see him as attractive in a physical way, and realized it was about the time when she learned that he liked her. I said, "But you told your coworker you thought other man was cute as a button before you found out he liked you." She said, "Yeah, but that was just he's cute in a howdy kind of way. It wasn't really attraction at all." She said that her coworker ran with that, trying to make a big deal out of nothing, making fun of her for saying Beer Guy was cute as a button and calling him her boyfriend. Then her coworker did what he did and told Beer Guy, "I know someone who likes you." She said that happened in March, and when she found out that Beer Guy found her attractive, that's when she started to fantasize about him, which was about a week before the actual event. I said to her that it sounds like it wasn't really the other man that she was attracted to, but the thought of having some spicy, taboo encounter. And she projected her attraction to that onto him. As I thought about that some more, that theory seemed to really explain a lot of things that my wife had said that didn't really make sense to me. Before, I couldn't understand how she could have a crush on a guy that would just go away after getting with him, like she told me it did. I couldn't understand how she could not find him attractive now when she did then. She said she didn't like thinking that she was a cliché, that she was the kind of wife who didn't get what she needed at home and was led astray. I told her that it made me feel terrible that I had not been meeting her desires, despite her telling me numerous times what she needed. And I also told her, and this is the truth, that the knowledge that it was the fantasy, and not the other man, would probably lay to rest a lot of issues I have been struggling with. So, I think she and I need to go to MC. I really wish I could confirm the details. Unfortunately, as I have said, her job is an hour's drive away. The people she's involved with up there, the vendors, her toxic coworker, etc., are not people I come into contact with regularly. I could ask her coworker, but he doesn't really know me from Adam, and there is no reason for him not to cover for his boss if confronted. I really don't want anything to do with the other man. I don't even want to see him. Sometimes I think she's minimizing also, because I want to hope that everything she is saying is the 100% truth. Because, really, her story is the only one I have and will ever have. When I think about her minimizing, though, she has given me details that she knew would hurt me and could have kept from me, like blowing the guy and liking what he was saying while doing so. But she chose to tell me them. I don't know why she would reveal such hurtful details if she wanted to minimize the entire thing. I do not accept that it was entirely my fault. Personally, I could never do what she did if I felt like my needs were being ignored without going through every possible recourse first, and I would probably divorce her before I cheated on her. It unnerves me to no end that she is the type of person who could do that to someone she supposedly loves. But it does say a lot that she could not hide it from me. If she had any intention at all of continuing anything with this guy, she could have easily kept me from it and never told me. I would not have found out, but she came clean on her own. The thing is, she had approached me about marital problems. Oftentimes, I would crawl into bed beside her and begin reading a book while she would be trying to put the moves on me while I ignored her. She had asked me once if I was gay or something because she couldn't understand how I could not react to her coming on to me the way she did. She told me how hurt and unattractive I made her feel when I acted like that. During those conversations, I would say things like, "I'm sorry, work stresses me out, I'm a teacher, it is stressful, and all I really want to do most nights is relax with a book and get some sleep." Basically, shutting out what she was really telling me. Want to mutilate my own balls now for treating her that way. I had the honor of being present while my dad was confronted with his affair, causing him to walk out on my mother, my sister, and I right in front of us. I told myself I could never do that to my wife and children, and I would never tolerate someone doing it to my own family. I think, however, that I was naive in that. I don't think every situation of infidelity is black and white. I think this will be on my mind 20 years from now whether I get a divorce tomorrow or not. What I want to do right now, and what my wife wants to do, is to try to work out and rebuild a stronger relationship. I spent the last 14 years of my life with this woman. I am not going to allow one 10-minute horrendous mistake tear that apart, particularly if my own behavior was a huge factor in causing it to happen. This marriage is too important to me to not to try. If it does happen again, however, there will be absolutely no resolvable excuse for it. I will see to that. A quick update. After the weekend has come and gone, I had hit a couple of really low points on Thursday and Friday of last week. I described the feeling to my wife as this, and it may not be the best metaphor, but it was the best that I came up with on the spur of the moment. My emotional state is like a bucket of water I carry around with me. When the weight of the bucket feels normal, I feel normal. My wife's news of her affair was like her dropping a pile of heavy objects into the bucket, weighing it down, each object representing a fear, doubt, question, etc. Every once in a while, one of these objects would bob to the surface and I would have to deal with it in order to remove it from the bucket. I would deal with it in a number of ways. Sometimes it would be from talking to other people, like you loyal folks. Sometimes it would be from writing about my feelings. But most of the time it would be from talking to her. Well, on Friday night, I felt like I had really dealt with many of the big issues except for one. How could she do that to me? I knew the why, the who, the when, the where, the how often, etc., but I really needed to know the how she was capable of doing something like that, in order to make sure every other question was truly laid to rest. I got up in the middle of night and got my hands on her iPhone. She never syncs her phone with iTunes, and I knew there was a way of recovering her deleted text messages from her phone. Well, I succeeded in doing so, and spent much of the rest of the night deciphering those text messages in WordPad. What I saw confirmed that everything she told me about the situation was the absolute truth. The way she described the affair to her friends in texts was exactly how she described it to me, including not being attracted to the guy, not climaxing when she was with him, and that she felt terrible and could never do it again. There were even a couple of texts between her and the guy, and that conversation went this way. Her: I put up your beer display myself, so there is no need for you to come out. Him: what if I wanted to come out? Her: ugh, that really won't be necessary. Him: damn. That was the last text between her and him, and it was sent over a month ago. I asked her why she deleted that text, and she said she knew it would bother me if I saw him talking to her that way and did not want me to have to deal with it. In actuality, I am glad she deleted it for me to discover, which she did not know I could do. The way she handled herself in this particular business transaction verified that it was over for her. And this conversation was something she took part in, believing that I would never see it. But the question remained, how could she do that to me, to our daughter? What was wrong with her, or her life, or me, that would cause her to so easily toss aside the vows she made to me to have this encounter at all? We talked about it all day and most of the night on Saturday. I forced her to look at sides of herself that she did not want to face. It was easier for her to know that it was over and to know that it could never happen again, and just move forward from there. I told her that it was not so easy for me. I told her that if one day the sun didn't rise, everyone would freak out. Assuming, of course, that the sun not rising would have been the only thing out of the ordinary and there would be no real effects like the Earth spinning out of its orbit as everything almost instantly turned to ice. And if the day after the event, the sun rose again, and continued to do so every day after that, people would not be satisfied by believing that it was all back to normal, that the sun not rising was just a fluke event that could never happen again. I told her that the fact that it happened once proves that she is capable of doing it, and she needed to examine and take care of the issue or issues that caused it to be absolutely sure it could never happen again. I don't want to rehash the whole conversation here, and I don't want anything to think that my summary of it makes it sound like easy excuses or conclusions. This was the result of a very long conversation between the both of us. Essentially, she came to believe that something from her childhood, maybe it was her first physical experience with a boy right after she turned 13, or something else, her IC might help draw that out, has made her get a lot of her self-worth and validation from bonding, from having a man desire her so much that he needs to satisfy that desire with her. I reminded her of who she was when I first met her. She majored in philosophy in college, and very headstrong when it came to morality and ethics. I told her when I met her, I was at a time in my life that I really needed a clear path to follow, a rational system of morality on which I could base my decisions. She and I are both atheists, so just saying, the Bible tells us this, was not an option. I told her that she really turned me around and made me a much better person. And I use a lot of what she taught me in my classroom on a daily basis. I deal with students whose system of right and wrong is basically determined on whether or not someone gets caught in the act. I told her that through her I am making differences in the lives of others, and she should get her self-worth from that, not bonding. I told her that the older would have been tearing her apart right now listening to some of the stuff she was saying. I told her that the older would point out that if self-validation comes from a man wanting to sleep with you, then common street carp should be the proudest people among us, and that she should be no prouder of herself than the students I have who get caught screwing in the graveyard behind our school. The conversation really struck a chord with her. She dusted off her old philosophy books and wants to regain her old self again, and she wants to start by teaching our daughter the system of morality and ethics and decision-making that many atheists rely on. I told her she could also start with that coworker of hers who egged this whole thing on to begin with. She remembered him telling her, in regard to the incident, that he didn't see what the big deal was. I told her that he obviously has no idea about self-respect himself if he could not possibly see how betraying the man you have vowed your life to, and who has put his trust in you for 14 years, could not be a big deal. She nodded, and agreed, and said that her coworker really has no self-respect and has massive issues with his own esteem. She agreed to talk with him today, and I look forward to hearing how that conversation went. If she is truly back to her old self, she will make him feel really small and petty and horrible for what he did, and may get him to change the way he looks at the world. I just want to hear her tell him herself how messed up he is. Personally, I don't care if he changes, although I think the conversation will be a boost to my wife's self-worth as well. Additionally, we talked openly about my own deficiencies when it came to making her feel wanted and desired. In a way, I had the damaging view of my wife as someone who existed only for me, and that made me feel really secure in my marriage to her. And part of what made me believe that I had achieved that was because I had purposefully, early on in the relationship, made her believe that I did not desire her as much as she desired me. I felt I had to play that psychological game with her in order to make her desire me more and give me all the power in the relationship. It's horrible, I know, but I really have desired her physically, and her affair has really caused me to open my eyes to her as a human being independent of her relationship with me, with real needs and insecurities that need to be met by me. I am working on allowing myself to express my feelings for her more often, to actually tell her when something she does is turning me on, rather than watching her silently and waiting for her to initiate bonding later. Thankfully, it is not very difficult for me to do these things for her, and I have noticed a real change in how she responds to me physically as well. Suffice it say, yesterday and this morning, so far, I have actually felt normal for the first time in nearly 2 months. The bucket feels like it weighs how it should, and the knot in my gut that I have been carrying around is no longer there. I even find myself consciously calling up images of my wife and the other man to see if I can get that knot to return. It hasn't, so far. I mean, if there is one thing I have learned about myself is that I can be emotionally unpredictable. Who knows what the future will bring, but I am excited about facing it with her. The biggest blow that I am dealing with at the moment is, as I mentioned in my last update, being forced to see my wife as a human being who does not exist only for me. I brought this up to her last night, how I worry when I catch her staring off into space with a serious expression on her face that some part of her is mourning the loss of the affair, or if she is silently debating with herself that she really wants me in this marriage and not something else. She quickly responded with, "No. Today I have been thinking a lot about what we talked about, and about how I want to go about preparing the philosophy course with our child. I will always want you, and I feel so grateful and lucky that you haven't walked out on me. In fact, I feel worried that I will drive you away because I want to be joined at your hip all the time, and I know how much you like your space." Listening to her say that crap about me liking my space, let me know that I, too, have a long way to go to show her that I do desire her in my life and want to be with her as well. And I don't think I can possibly rug sweep any negative emotions I have. I wear them on my sleeve, and my wife notices every time I am having an issue. And many times she initiates a conversation herself, despite knowing that it can result in me making her rehash the whole episode over and over and over. So, she's been a real trooper so far, and both of us realize that constant, open conversation is necessary for real healing. Someone wanted a reconciliation story, other people are not pleased with it. But that is life. Some relationships last, some won't. If you were OP, would you give her the paper? Comment down below, and see you in the next story.